Hey guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to my Demon Avenger series. In this video I'm going to be going through and showing you guys what I've done on my Demon Avenger over the last week or so, and also kind of taking a different approach to this video compared to others. Usually I show you guys what I've done in terms of progression, but in today's video I'm actually just going to show what this character can do with the current gear that it has. Before I do anything though, I do want to apologize for my voice. It might sound a little bit off because I am recovering from a cold. So I'm doing my best here regarding my voice. It's the best that it sounded over the last couple of days, so hopefully you guys can bear with my slightly weird sounding voice right now. But anyway, the first thing that I wanted to talk about on this character was that it recently got a pretty surprising drop, or should I say surprising 2 drops. I haven't really been showing this character on stream too much, but when I do, I tend to do things like my weeklies and my dailies. And one of the things that I did on this particular stream was Golix. And from Golix, I managed to break the heart and get both the superior pieces required. Both the superior earrings and the superior belts dropped at the same time. And I think at that point, I was at maybe 600 coins collected. So having both of the pieces at 600 coins means that I basically only need to do Golix now for the coins every day. And not having to worry about the drops is just a nice feeling. I just need to build up the 1,400 coins to have the rest of my superior set, which is really, really nice. And yeah, just incredibly lucky. It's the first time I've ever seen 2 superior item drops drop at the same time, even though I've been playing this game for maybe 4 or 5 years now. But other than that, there hasn't been too many new gains on this character. I'm just quickly going to show you guys here what my character has. It really has not improved otherwise very much. I have gotten a few more drops. As you can see, I have a bunch of random fodders in my inventory. I have a extra Dom Pennant, which is really nice as well. And you can see here I have some extra things like I have a Carnage Treasure, actually 2 here. And of course just a bunch of random items, mostly fodders for my Absolute pieces. And I'll talk about that a little bit later in the video, but for now just wanted to appreciate the fact that we do in fact have both our superior pieces done today. Just building up the coins now, currently at 741. Just need about another month or so to be able to buy the rest of our Golix gear. I haven't made many gains. You can see here, I think the last part I ended up at around 12 mil combat power, and as of right now, I'm still at about 12 mil combat power. This is my current link setup that I'm using. They're just the links that I've given myself as I've progressed to level 260. And as you guys can see here, my Legion board is still pretty much blank. I don't really know what I want to do with this character in terms of giving it perks like Links and Legion, but I'm just going to leave it here for the time being. And my character is just a little bit under 13 mil combat power. With that being said, I want to go into a lot more gameplay today. I know a lot of people have been asking to see a little bit more gameplay when it comes down to this Demon Avenger, and that's what I want to focus on. I wanted to share what exactly this character can do given its gear. It doesn't have anything too spectacular in terms of its items right now. I am using mostly Meso drop gear in terms of its current damage accessories. I do have a Dominator Pennant with 2 lines of stat, which is pretty much my only damage gear at the moment. And other than that, I am using the fully upgraded Challenger set. All of them are 18 stars with 15% stat, except for obviously the Abso parts, which currently have 17% stat. My secondary is just 12 attack and 30 boss damage, and my emblem is 2 lines of attack as well. So I would say pretty much most of these items, nothing is too special about them. And I wanted to start off by talking about what the next steps would typically be for a character at this spot. We hit 260, we unlock our 6th job. Speaking of 6th job, my 6th job is pretty much bare bones. I only have a few things upgraded. 1 skill, I have my origin skill of course, and our 2 masteries here. So overall, maybe about 150 to 200 fragments spent on just unlocking all these things. For most players, the next step is to work on getting better gear. In terms of accessories, it's pretty straightforward. I think that you can just get along with slowly getting Golix gear, and once you have all your Golix equipment done, you can move on to getting things like Meister Rings, Carnage Treasures, and then slowly work towards the bosses that actually drop better things like Chaos Slime, Hard Lucid, and Hard Wheel, where they drop a lot more of the different accessories. But obviously that is not super accessible for most new characters, but what is actually surprisingly accessible are a lot of the bosses to be done in a party. You might not be able to get priority in a Twilight Mark run, for example, but you can get yourself into a Hard Lucid and Hard Wheel run. And that's the first thing that I wanted to show you guys today, is this Hard Wheel run that I actually ran on stream. I honestly didn't know what to expect. Most of the time when you have your 6th job unlocked, you should be pretty safe when it comes to doing enough damage because of your origin skill. So I thought that at the time I had barely enough damage to contribute to this party. For this particular run, I was not running in a carry party, so everybody really needed to be alive for us to be able to clear. If anybody died out, it would have a lot of damage problems. So this run in particular was kind of risky for me. There was a chance that I was going to die out, and funnily enough, as soon as I loaded in, I think I died pretty much immediately. And I wanted to showcase this hard wheel in particular to show that even though my character is actually quite weak, in my opinion, to do something like this sort of content, the Challenger gear is actually quite effective at giving you just barely enough damage to be able to clear a boss like this. Even though it was a 6-man struggle run, I found myself being able to green dot very safely inside the boss. I think that as long as your arcane force is high enough, and also the fact that I am decently high level, at level 260, it gives me a lot of extra damage on top of Will, because I think Will's a level 250 boss. Every level gives me a little bit of extra final damage, and of course making sure to get the biggest boost in the game at the moment, our 6th job. In combination of unlocking a few nice masteries and having access to my origin, I didn't have any issues doing enough damage in Will, and I pretty much consistently stayed at green throughout the entire fight. Now, unfortunately, towards the end of the fight, I was getting pretty low on lives. We were in Will for quite a while because we had issues in phase 2 of Will. In phase 2 of Will, nobody is allowed to die during the test segment. You have to make sure to avoid the legs when required and get hit by the legs when the crack shows up in the floor. And unfortunately, our party took turns dying in different tests, and we were just in P2 for a very long time, causing a lot of us to bleed lives and then going into phase 3 with very little lives between all of us. As a result, inside P3, it was actually quite difficult for us. We lost a lot of people. I think a bunch of us died out, maybe even in P2. But in P3, the lives got bled out pretty quickly, even for myself. I think at this point, I already had lost a lot of lives because I was still learning how to play Demon Avenger. In phase 2, I took a bunch of lives because I didn't know what I could get hit by, so I just decided to not get hit by anything. I needed to focus on staying alive and dodging all the mechanics. But what happened in P3 was that I actually needed to stay on top of the boss the whole time to be able to heal, to be able to survive the hits from the small mechanics. There's a lot of small things that happen in P3 Will, where you get chip damaged. And I realized later in the fight, and actually after we finished this run, a lot of people were telling me I needed to stay on top of the boss. I couldn't stay away from the boss, otherwise I just wouldn't heal from Frenzy. And as the fight progressed, I lost a lot of lives in very silly manners. I either got hit into the webs and then got hit by some small things and died. I even got hit by the big stomp mechanics, which are really some things that you shouldn't be dying to in terms of Will. And towards the end of the fight, I ended up dying out just at the end. And I feel kind of bad, honestly, for this particular run because our party ended up not clearing. There was only 3 of us left in the run, and they timed out with about 2% left. And given the amount of time that was remaining on the boss when I did die out, if I didn't lose my life so quickly, maybe we could have cleared, but that's alright. It's still us learning how to play our class. Demon Avenger is very brutal when it comes to figuring out what you can and can't get hit by. Basically playing on 30% HP the entire time is very confusing. I don't know what things will actually kill me, so there's something that I'm definitely improving on as we play. But yep, unfortunately I didn't clear the hard wheel run, but hopefully you guys got a little bit more of an idea of just how much damage a character can do with just the item burning and basic 6 job advancement. Moving on from that, it wasn't just hard wheel that I attempted. I also gave a try at actually the Chaos Tenebris bosses. This is something that's a little bit less realistic because I am joining here on my Demon Avenger in a guild run. One of the guys in the party is actually strong enough to solo the boss, and he just took a bunch of us along to be able to do enough damage to get the rewards for the boss. And I thought that this was a good idea and a good time for me to just check my damage in these bosses. I didn't really know how to compare my damage against Chaos Tenebris bosses because I only did hard will. But I wanted to try to do these bosses so then I could see how long it took me to do 5% and encourage you guys too to join public runs. A lot of public runs tend to be on the longer side, and as long as you don't have somebody in your party that can kill the boss within about 5 minutes, I think that you have a decent chance of actually doing enough to blue dot in a boss. And being able to blue dot gives you chances of getting items like arcane boxes and ring boxes, which will help a lot in progression. The drop rate of these items are not very high, but just giving yourself those chances is more than enough reason to try these bosses in a pub run. Starting off, the first boss I actually did was Hard v Hilla. Now, Hard v Hilla is actually really difficult for Demon Avenger because, as you guys can see, I'm permanently on 30% HP. And a big reason why that this class can survive in a lot of these bosses is that you have to stay on top of the boss and continually hit the boss. Unlike a lot of classes, Demon Avenger can actually heal inside v Hilla pretty much like normal. I don't have to rely on things like healing fams, I don't rely on things like potions as much. A lot of the skills seem to just bypass v Hilla's potion lock and healing lock. But as it turns out, as you would expect as well for a lot of public runs, we actually played in the corner for a big amount of the time of the boss. And if you guys don't know too much about v Hilla, inside this boss, she drops a lot of things that do damage over time, like the corpses on the floor and the gas clouds that kind of spawn throughout the fight. And because of that, it would actually area restrict me, so I couldn't stand in certain spots in the fight to be able to hit her. And because of that, then I don't heal, and then I have a higher chance of getting killed. And I think what ended up happening once or twice was everybody was in the corner, and she used either the green or the purple spikes. And that did enough damage to pretty much kill me every time it went off. And I realized this pretty quickly that I can't play in the corner with the team. I need to play inside the middle. And I did end up asking the party if they could play in the middle for me. And thankfully they were nice enough to try to play towards the middle a little bit more, just to give me a little bit more space to move around and avoid some of the mechanics that would do too much damage, while still being able to stand on top of her so I could survive the chip damage. Overall, I found it a very interesting boss where you're kind of playing with your HP on a really low level, but at the same time, you're actually pretty tanky because you can heal through a lot more mechanics than you would expect on this Demon Avenger. It did take us a few attempts, but thankfully the party did clear. I had some people tell me that I shouldn't use the skill Revenant. I didn't really look into why, and as of right now, as I'm recording, I still don't know why I'm not meant to turn on Revenant. I'm sure it has something to do with the fact that I can't heal, or the fact that v Hilla potion locks you. Again, please correct me in the comments if you guys know. For the entire fight in v Hilla, I didn't use one of my major damage skills, I think, and it still did take me a while, but we did eventually get to the damage threshold that was required to get blue dot in v Hilla. I think the fight took maybe about 12 minutes for us to do enough damage, but it was actually a reasonable run. I don't think that a lot of parties, especially public parties, would clear any faster than about 10 minutes. So if you guys are wanting to try and attempt v Hilla and are confident with your damage uptime, I think that just with the item burning, you guys are actually able to reasonably blue dot. Again, you have to be a bit mindful of the people in your party. People do not want to be in this boss for any longer than 10 minutes. And I think I was kind of pushing it in terms of the amount of time it took me to hit the damage requirement. And I was also lucky that we were running in a guild party, so if something went wrong, we could actually rerun. But if this was a public run and I died out, there's no chance that they'll leave for me. So just keep that in mind. If you do take a public run, if you die out, you will probably lose your run and they will still probably clear. Next up, we went ahead and I think we did Darknell. Now, given the fact that I had enough damage for Hard v Hilla, the rest of the bosses I'm about to show you guys are entirely doable with the same gear. Again, I'm just simply using the item burning gear and just using all the resources that they've given throughout the event. I haven't added anything too crazy. I'm still using a pretty much blank Legion board. I'm using very suboptimal links and very bare bones in terms of my 6 job. As long as you are able to stay on top of the boss and continually do your damage, and hopefully be able to get most of your burst off every time that the bind comes up, you should be able to do a fair amount of damage. When it came to Hard Darknell on this Demon Avenger, it was difficult. I won't lie, I found this boss probably more difficult than v Hilla, mostly because there's so many random chip damage things that I just wasn't used to keeping in mind that typically wouldn't kill me on a normal character. And it has entirely to do with the fact that I only have 30% HP. For most normal classes, I would stay at a close to 100 HP, and then when I get hit by things, it'll push me to about 70%. Then I get hit by another thing, it puts me down to about 30%, and then I would heal back to full. For Demon Avenger though, I have no idea how much damage things do to me, and I have no idea if I need to heal. My HP just looks low the entire time, and what ends up happening is that I will end up getting hit by random mechanics that I maybe would be able to tank on a normal class and then reactively heal, but on my Demon Avenger I would just die because I didn't realize I needed to heal. It's very difficult for me to use things like potions because of how low my HP is, And of course I have a few tools that allow me to heal as well, and again, like I said, I'm just not used to this class, and I ended up dying a lot in hard Darknell. I think I was pretty close to dying out, and towards the end of the run I was also looking a little bit sus on my damage too. Like, I didn't want to die out, and I needed to do a little bit more damage so then the guys didn't have to rerun for me. But thankfully, the time that we stayed inside hard Darknell was actually a lot shorter than Hilla, because unlike Hilla, you're not spending as much time dodging a lot of the attacks. Hilla has a lot of area restrictions, she teleports a lot, and you have to avoid the strings very consistently. Whereas for Darknell, he kind of attacks on a pattern, and as long as you just avoid the attack patterns, you actually have a decent amount of damage uptime. So I felt that for this particular boss, it wasn't too bad at all. I just needed to get used to my class, and other than that, it's just trying to avoid getting killed by random big mechanics. Next up, we have Chaos Gloom. Chaos Gloom is relatively simple when it comes to the C10 bosses, mostly because he doesn't really do anything. There are some really big attacks that you have to avoid, but every single one of those big attacks are pretty telegraphed. You can see the tornadoes spawn from the bottom, they do have a bit of a timer, and you do get a bit of a warning with the red legs that shoot every once in a while. And as long as you are able to do decent damage every time that the eye opens, I think that this boss is not too crazy to deal with. The mechanics are pretty straightforward, the boss doesn't do anything, and the boss doesn't really avoid any damage. It is just more or less a DPS check, so yeah, there's just not really much to say about Sea Gloom. As long as you are able to conserve your lives during darkness, I think the fight is relatively straightforward. And that's pretty much all the bossing footage I have for you guys. After running those C10 bosses, I never got around to clearing Lucid and Will again. You guys can see here, I actually don't have any of the boss droplets on my character at all. I have the normal droplets here, but I don't have the boss droplets, and this is something I need to talk to you guys about regarding this character. As it turns out, for Demon Avenger, especially for a mule, I don't actually have to go for arcanes. And this is going to be the second half of this video, so if you guys were here for some gameplay, it's going to slow down a little bit. I need to show you guys just what I need to do on this character. And this is something I've been alluding to on this character for quite a while, and why I'm building up so many fodders for it. As it turns out, for Demon Avenger, I can get away with just 21 star or even 22 star Absolab gear across the entire character. In other words, I will be using the entire 5 set Absolab gear, including the weapon. I have 2 armor pieces here already from Hard Lotus and Hard Damien. I have been running those bosses, but even for the weapon, I will be using Absolab. And the reason for that is because Demon Avenger actually gains a lot of extra stat from just purely Star Forcing. I'm not exactly sure of the full maths for it, but because of this Star Force conversion for Demon Avenger, I actually do end up getting a lot more damage from just stars, not necessarily from what the items are. And as it turns out, using full 22 or 21 star Absolab is only about a 4% damage loss compared to an arcane set. Even compared to the arcane weapons, which are typically better than Abso weapons, just straight up better across the board, it doesn't really beat it out, because you don't get as many stars on the arcane weapon compared to the Abso weapon. At least that is my understanding of this. So most classes would actually want to try to use a arcane weapon in conjunction with the arcane armor pieces, because the items are just better, the Star Forcing is better, the base stats are better, just basically everything is better. But for Demon Avenger specifically, I just want stars. I don't care about the base stats as strongly as some other classes, and that's where the strengths I'm using Absolabs kind of comes from. I can use a lot of different fodders. As you can see, I have so much stacked up here. I have so many spares of pretty much everything, and I want to be able to transfer all these stars over onto Absolab and then just start using that gear instead. This is going to be the last time I talk about my Abso gear, because I think I've said this too many times already, but this is my game plan. I want to be able to push 21 stars across as many items as possible. I don't care as much as other classes do when it comes to just the quality of the items. I just need to make sure that they have a lot of stars, and that'll give me a lot more damage. And to round it out, guys, I have no idea how I want to progress this character. I actually skipped out on the Shining Star Force event on this character. I haven't spent anything. The character has made pretty much no gains as of right now. But what I will allow myself to do is I'm going to start saving a little bit of money for this character in preparation for the next 5, 10, 15 event. At the end of January, I think we have another Star Forcing event, and I will be spending hopefully a decent amount on this character to try to push its gear, so then I can replace some of the items here that I have in the Challenger set. Things like the CRA gear, I wasn't too fussed about pushing because we actually don't have too many of spares. I have maybe 10 spares of each, which is still on the riskier side. I think that I would like to try to 21 star them all in one sitting, and having maybe about 15 to 20 pieces is more than safe enough, but I don't have as many pieces as I would like. In terms of my Abso spares, it's looking pretty healthy. I have pretty much 15 to 20 of each of the pieces here, and I do even have a few spares of my superior gear. Unfortunately for the earrings, I only have one reinforced earring, as I can see in my inventory at the moment, so I'm really hoping that we can get some more reinforced earrings so then we can Star Force this superior earring. But at the end of the day, I am still waiting for the coins, and we are building those up nicely. But yeah, that'll be it for today's video. It's a little bit different from usual because I spent a lot more time not really progressing the character, but just attempting new content, so then you guys can see just how powerful this item loadout that we get from the item burning is. And hopefully this inspires you guys to give a go at some public parties as well. It is safer to run with your guild, so if you can get yourself into guild runs, it is probably better, so then if you do end up dying out, you have a higher chance of getting a rerun. But at the same time, I know a lot of people don't like to be carried and want to join into struggle run parties, which is absolutely fine as well. I think that this video has kind of shown that the gear is more than enough, as long as you have a reasonable amount of links, and honestly, the Legion at the end of the day didn't really matter. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, even though it was a little bit different. Please give it a like, it helps me out a lot, and if you want to see more from me, please consider subscribing to the channel. Take care guys, and I'll see you all in the next one.